Hey, and welcome to Macon. Today we're channeling Bonnie Tyler, Stephenie Meyer, and Heroes, and blacking out the sun. That's right, it's time for an eclipse. Look, I'm sure you all know this, but a solar eclipse happens because the sun is about 400 times larger than the moon, but it's about 400 times further away. So when the moon is in between the Earth and the sun, it blocks out the sun almost perfectly, which is just really cool. I'm in the UK, so the next time I'll get to see an eclipse is on the 12th of August 2026. If you're watching this in the US, your next one will be April 8th, 2024. And if you're in the 10% of my audience from India, namaste, then you have to wait until 2034. Of course, if you're watching this in 2034, 2024, 2026, then you've not had to wait at all. Or you've just missed one. Bad luck. Of course, my level of research is putting country names into Google. I did stumble across this website, which is great if you fancy a real deep dive into eclipses. My version is a 2D effect. Sure, you could spend some time placing layers in 3D space, and in the preview I do overdo easy ease to show the full effect in 20 seconds. I'll be using expressions and saving this as a preset so that I can reuse and change it later. I'll jump into the tutorial in a second, but I posted the preview a few months ago on Reddit, and there were some comments about if you should see the moon's surface. I disagree based on the reference imagery, but it would be really simple to add a texture if you want to, and these comments show you how. Okay, let's jump in. Here I am in AE with a 1080p comp. I'll go to Layer, New, Solid, to make a new layer. And because I'm going to make this a preset, I'm going to use a bunch of expression controls. So go to Effect, Expression Controls, Point Control. Make sure the effect is selected, hit enter, and rename this to Moon Position. And back to Expression Controls and add a slider control. Rename this to Radius and set it to 250 for now. Then we'll add a checkbox control and name this Light Rays. Later on I'll be adding light rays, but as a preset I want to make it easy to turn these off. We'll next add a color control. And I'll set this to a light yellow. But again, by doing this here, I can change it later more easily. Let's add an angle control, and finally 2 more point controls. Name the first one Sun Position, and the second one to Effect Center. All will become clear. Now, we'll keep going from the top down. I did consider doing the basic physical steps first and then adding in the fancier stuff, but it's all a little complex, so I'll just try to explain as I go. Go to Effect, Noise and Grain, Fractal Noise. This is going to give us an edge to our sun. Hold Alt and click on the Evolution stopwatch and type time times 100. That will give us a little animation. And expand the effect's transform options and Alt click on the Offset stopwatch. And in the expressions area type square bracket 0, comma time times 25, close square brackets. This will animate the fractal noise to move down. Now go to Effect, Distort, Polar Coordinates. Switch the type to Rectopolar and crank it up to 100%. So that downward movement has now become an outward one. Now if I was wanting to show this in more detail, I'd use precomps and masks and the offset effect to hide this harsh line. But I'm going to use fractal noise just to give a hint of solar flares, so I'm just going to leave it. So now let's go to Effect, Generate, Circle. Rename this effect to Edge Flares. Use the center pick whip to link the center of the circle to the moon position. And link radius to radius. And set feather to 30. Finally, for this effect, set the blending mode to Stencil Alpha. So we're using Circle to create a circular mask which we can control from our sliders. Making sure Edge Flares is selected, go to Edit, Duplicate. Rename this effect to Sun. Expand the radius expressions area and add times 0.97. This will make the radius 97% of the flare's circle, which is controlled by our radius setting at the top. Drop feather to 15 and set the blending mode to normal. so we get a circle with a thin, fiery edge. Go to Effect, Distort Transform, and rename this to Movement, and link the position to the Sun position point control. The reason I have done it this way is that I had to link the edge flares to the Sun, but there was no way to animate the polar coordinates, so instead I've moved both with a transform effect. If I had just animated the Sun circle, the flare would have stayed where they were and the Sun would have moved through them. Okay, duplicate edge flares again. Rename this moon and drag it below movement. Make it black and set the feather to 3. And blending mode to normal.
Get them to subscribe.
What's what?
Get them to subscribe.
Hey viewers, the YouTube algorithm god is demanding an offering. All hail the algorithm. Just click the bell thing, you don't want to make it mad. Okay, now go to Effect, Stylize, Glow. I'm going to use the same styling settings that I use for my black hole tutorial. Does it count as stealing if you do it from yourself? Set the threshold to 70% and the radius to 65 and the intensity to 3, and then add glow again. Set this threshold to 15 and the radius to 500. And now let's go to Color Correction, Tint, and use the white color pick whip to link to our color expression control. Now let's add our light rays. Go to Effect, Generate, CC Light Rays. And when you look at footage of a real eclipse, you can see the challenge. We need this effect to be in the center of the Sun until the Sun starts to go behind the Moon, and then it needs to hang onto the edge until the total eclipse, and then jump over to the other side and slowly back to the center. So we could spend ages keyframing this. But expressions to the rescue! To make this easier to see what's going on, turn off CC Light Rays for a moment and add a new circle effect. Set the blending mode to normal and the color to red. Alt-click on the position property and type Moon Pos equals, and then use the pick whip to link to our Moon position point control's X value. Semicolon, new line, Sun Pos equals, and use the pick whip to the Sun position's X value. Semicolon, Moon radius, and pick whip to our radius control. Semicolon, new line, if, open bracket, Moon Pos minus Sun Pos less than Moon radius and Sun Pos minus Moon Pos less than Moon radius, close brackets. Open curly bracket, width is equal to this comp.width divided by 2, semicolon, x equals width plus, and then use the expressions library to get interpolation, linear, t, t-min, t-max, etc. Replace t with Sun Pos, replace t-min with width minus Moon radius times 0.05, replace t-max with width plus Moon radius times 0.05, replace value 1 with Moon radius times -1, and replace value 2 with Moon radius. Now, after the curly bracket, type else and open a new curly bracket, x equals Sun Pos, and finally, outside the curly brackets, open square brackets, x, comma, and use the pick whip to set the y value to the Sun position's y value. Make sure you have 2 closing square brackets. So what this is doing, we set our variables at the top. So what we're saying is that if the position of the Moon minus the position of the Sun is less than the value of the Moon's radius, and if the Sun position minus the Moon's position is also less than the value of the Moon's radius, then we can get After Effects to use a range mapper to set the circle's position to move to the edge of the Sun. But if the Sun is outside the Moon's radius completely, then follow the Sun's position. Scrubbing back and forth on the timeline shows what we're getting. So copy this expression to CC light rays, and turn off the red circle. Now, there's a little problem with the dot passing in front of the moon. Now, I can just move CC light rays behind the moon, but now it's acting on the whole white circle instead of just the outline. And remember our checkbox? Hold Alt and click on the intensity stopwatch, and in the expressions area type if, open brackets, and use the pick whip to link to our checkbox, equals true, close brackets, open curly brackets, 350, close curlies, else, open curlies, 0, close curlies. So now we need to duplicate our moon circle. And finally, all of this is in the center of the comp. Now I could move the moon position using the first point control, but then I'd have to change the sun's keyframes too. So instead, add a second transform effect and use the pick whip to link to the position value of our effect center point control and link the rotation to our angle control. So now I can position my eclipse anywhere in the frame and at any angle. And I only have 2 keyframes to deal with. I was tempted to figure out a slider control for the sun's position, but then if you want a partial eclipse, that would screw it up. And that's it. When you're happy, go to Animation, Save Animation Preset. I use Pseudo Effect Maker to combine all my expression controls into a single effect, which makes this a lot easier to manage. I've included the preset in the description below, but this is more fun to try building for yourself. Extra things you could include would be an adjustment layer to darken the sky as the eclipse happens, although you wouldn't be able to save this as the same preset. You could use another layer to add fractal noise clouds in front of the effect, and if you really insisted, you could have a moon using CC sphere instead of a black circle. But thanks for watching, and you better get out of here before the algorithm appears demanding subscriptions. Oh no, too late, run!